I never meant to fall for him. Until one night changed everything. He wasn't a stranger. He wasn't a mistake. He was my sister's fiancé. And before anyone realized what was happening, my family was already breaking apart. This isn't a story about betrayal that happened in a moment. It's about how love can grow quietly, in the one place it should never exist. I tried to stop it. I tried to walk away. But some feelings don't ask for permission. And when the truth finally came out, it destroyed everything I was trying to protect. This is the story of how I fell in love with the wrong man and paid the price for it. I never planned to fall in love with Daniel Wright. That is the truth I repeat to myself, even now, long after everything has been broken beyond repair. Long after apologies became useless and silence replaced laughter in our family home. Loving him was never a decision I made. It was a slow erosion, quiet, unnoticeable at first, like water carving its way through stone. And the worst part? He was never mine to love. Daniel was my sister Clara's fiancé, the man she proudly introduced to our family as her future husband, the man my parents adored almost instantly, the man everyone said was perfect for her. Everyone, except me. The first time Clara brought Daniel home, I remember thinking how ordinary he looked. Tall, yes. Polite. Well-dressed in that careful way men adopt when they want to impress parents. He shook my father's hand firmly, complimented my mother's cooking, and smiled at me with a brief, courteous nod, before turning his attention back to Clara. Nothing about that moment hinted at the destruction waiting quietly ahead. Clara was glowing that day. She always did when she felt admired. She had that way about her. Confidence that filled rooms, laughter that carried, certainty that life would bend in her favor. As her younger sister, I had grown used to standing slightly behind her light. I loved her. I admired her. And I never once wanted what was hers. Not until Daniel. At first, he was just a presence. Someone who joined us for dinners. Someone who sat across from me at the table and asked harmless questions about my work, my interests, my plans. He listened when I spoke, not with politeness, but with focus. The kind that makes you feel seen without trying. Still, I told myself it meant nothing. He was simply kind, simply attentive, simply my sister's fiancé. The engagement period stretched on longer than expected. Wedding venues were postponed, dates shifted. Life, as it often does, interfered. And in that waiting space, Daniel became more woven into our lives than any of us anticipated. He helped my father with small repairs around the house. He joined my mother on early morning walks. He stayed late after family dinners, talking about everything and nothing. Slowly, without intention, he became familiar, too familiar. It was during one of those evenings, quiet, unremarkable, that something shifted. Clara had stepped out to take a phone call, her laughter echoing from the hallway as she spoke to one of her friends. My parents had gone upstairs. The house fell into a brief, rare silence. Daniel and I were left alone at the dining table, half-empty plates between us. "So," he said, glancing at me, "you never told me why you gave up on architecture." The question caught me off guard. I hadn't realized he knew I ever wanted that. "I didn't think anyone remembered," I replied. He smiled, faint and thoughtful. "You mentioned it once, a long time ago." There was nothing inappropriate about the conversation, nothing wrong. And yet I felt a strange tightening in my chest, the unsettling realization that he paid attention to things I barely remembered sharing. From that moment on, I became aware of him in a way I never had before. The sound of his voice when he laughed softly, the way his expression changed when he was thinking, the pauses before he spoke, as if he measured his words carefully. I hated myself for noticing. I began avoiding him. Or at least, I tried. I left rooms when he entered. I busied myself when he stayed late. I answered politely but briefly when he spoke to me. Clara noticed, of course. She always noticed everything. "Did I do something?" she asked me one afternoon. Her brow furrowed. "No," I said too quickly. "Of course not." She studied me for a moment, then shrugged it off. Clara trusted me. She had no reason not to. I had been her constant, her confidant, her defender, her shadow. I would never betray her. That promise became my anchor. Until the night it broke. It was raining heavily the evening everything changed. Clara had gone out with friends, insisting Daniel stay behind because he'd had a long day at work. My parents were away for the weekend. I planned to retreat to my room early, avoid unnecessary interaction, and let the storm pass quietly. But fate rarely respects intentions. The power went out just after 9. The house plunged into darkness save for the faint glow of lightning slicing through the windows. I froze in the hallway, phone light useless against the shadows. "Elena," Daniel's voice came from the living room. Calm. Steady. "I'm here," I replied. He found a flashlight and handed it to me without touching my hand. Even that restraint felt deliberate, thoughtful. We sat in the living room, separated by a careful distance, listening to rain pound against the roof. The silence stretched, not uncomfortable, but heavy, as if something waited between us, unspoken. "I didn't expect the storm to be this bad," he said. "Neither did I." Another pause. "Clara talks about you a lot," he added. My heart skipped. "Does she?" "She says you're the one person she trusts without question." Guilt crept in. Sharp and immediate. "She shouldn't," I said quietly. Daniel turned to look at me. "Why would you say that?" The question lingered, unanswered. Lightning flashed again, illuminating his face for a split second. In that light, I saw concern, curiosity, something else I didn't dare name. "I just mean..." I faltered, then stopped. The truth pressed against my chest, desperate to escape, but I swallowed it down. We talked for hours that night, about our childhoods, our regrets, the things we never admitted aloud. It felt innocent, safe, until it didn't. At some point, the rain softened. The power returned. The lights flickered on. Neither of us moved. That was when I realized the danger, not in what had happened, but in how much I didn't want it to end. After that night, everything became harder. The restraint between us grew more fragile. Conversations lingered longer than necessary. Silences carried weight. I caught him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking. I hated myself for noticing, and for wanting to be seen. I prayed Clara would set a wedding date soon, that everything would move forward and bury these feelings under normalcy. But instead, delays continued, excuses piled up, and the closer the wedding felt, the further I drifted from myself. The breaking point came quietly. One afternoon, I overheard Daniel on the phone in the garden. I wasn't trying to listen. I just happened to hear my name. "I don't know how to fix this," he said softly. "It's not supposed to be like this." I stood frozen, heart racing. I never meant for it to happen. My breath caught. He ended the call and turned, stopping short when he saw me standing there. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said the words that shattered the last piece of control I had left. "We need to talk." And I knew, with a terrifying certainty, that once we did, nothing would ever be the same. The words, "we need to talk," echoed in my mind long after Daniel said them. I wanted to pretend I hadn't heard him, to walk past him, retreat to my room, and bury everything under routine and distance. But my feet refused to move. Fear and curiosity tangled inside me, tightening with every second of silence between us. "I didn't mean to overhear," I said finally, my voice thinner than I intended. Daniel exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. He looked tired. Not the kind of tired that came from work or lack of sleep, but the kind that settled into someone's bones when they were fighting a battle they were losing. "It's fine," he replied. I think it's time anyway." Time. The word landed heavily. We sat on opposite ends of the garden bench, a deliberate distance between us, as though space alone could protect us from what we both already knew. The afternoon sun filtered through the leaves above, casting shifting shadows across the ground. It felt cruelly peaceful for a moment so fragile. "I never wanted to complicate things," Daniel began. "Clara means everything to me." I nodded quickly. "She does to me too. And that's why this, whatever this is, needs to stop before it becomes something worse." My heart thudded painfully. Before, not because it already was. "I agree," I said, even though my chest burned as the words left my mouth. "This shouldn't exist." He looked at me then, really looked at me. And I saw the same conflict mirrored in his eyes. Relief warred with something darker, something unresolved. "I just needed you to hear that," he said. I stood up before he could say anything else. "You're right. Thank you for being honest. It was the safest ending to a dangerous conversation. Or so I thought. For a while, we succeeded. We became careful, polite, distant. I convinced myself that discipline could erase desire, that guilt could be a cure. I poured myself into work, stayed out late, avoided family gatherings whenever possible. Clara, however, was blissfully unaware. She talked endlessly about wedding plans, about colours and venues and guest lists. She asked my opinion on dresses, on music, on flowers. Every conversation felt like a knife twisting slowly, deliberately. "You'll stand next to me," she said one evening, excitement dancing in her eyes. "No matter what, you always do." I forced a smile. "Of course." Daniel remained respectful, measured. He avoided being alone with me. When our paths crossed, our conversations were brief and controlled. On the surface, it looked like the crisis had passed. But suppression doesn't destroy feelings. It starves them. And starving things tend to become desperate. The night Clara announced the final wedding date, everything unraveled. She burst into the house breathless and glowing, waving her phone triumphantly. 3 months, she said. It's official. My parents celebrated. Glasses clinked. Laughter filled the room. I felt numb, as though I were watching someone else's life unfold from behind glass. Daniel caught my eye briefly from across the room. There was no joy in his expression, only resignation. That was when I understood the truth I had been avoiding. This wasn't going away. A week later, Clara asked me to help her pick up decorations from a storage unit on the other side of town. At the last minute, she received an urgent call from work. "Daniel can go with you instead," she said casually. "You two know what I want anyway." The suggestion felt like a trap laid by fate itself. "I can go alone," I offered too quickly. "Nonsense," she replied. "He's already free." Daniel hesitated when she told him, but refusing would have raised questions. So we agreed. The drive was quiet. Not awkward, worse, charged. Every red light felt too long. Every shared glance felt loaded with things we refused to say. When we arrived, the storage unit was dim and nearly empty, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. As we sorted through boxes, our movements careful, restrained, I felt my resolve weakening. Proximity did that. Silence did that. I thought we agreed to stop pretending, Daniel said quietly, his back turned to me. I froze. What do you mean? We said we'd stop before it became something worse, he replied. But pretending it doesn't exist doesn't make it disappear. I closed my eyes. Daniel, please, this isn't fair. He turned to face me. None of this is fair. The air felt thick, oppressive. I love my sister, I said, my voice trembling. I would never hurt her. I know, he said softly. That's what makes this unbearable. Something broke then. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a quiet fracture inside my chest that widened with every breath. He stepped closer, stopping just short of touching me. Tell me I'm wrong, he said. Tell me you feel nothing. I wanted to lie. I wanted to save us all, but I didn't. I can't, I whispered. That was the moment we crossed the line, not with touch, but with truth. We pulled apart almost immediately, horror flooding my senses. The weight of what we'd admitted pressed down on us both. This can never happen again, I said, panic rising. Never. Daniel nodded, his jaw tight. You're right. We left the storage unit without another word. For days after, I lived in fear. Fear of discovery, fear of myself, fear that one slip, one glance too long, would unravel everything. Clara noticed my tension. Are you okay? She asked one night as we lay in bed, the way we used to as teenagers. You've been distant. I'm just tired, I replied. She smiled softly. You always carry more than you should. The guilt nearly crushed me. I thought the worst had passed. I was wrong. The twist came from a place I never expected. One evening, as I passed the study, I heard my mother on the phone. I wasn't trying to listen, but my name stopped me cold. She's always been sensitive, my mother said. More than Clara. A pause. Yes. I've noticed something off lately too. My stomach dropped. Daniel? She continued. Oh no, I trust him completely, but Elena, she's been restless. I backed away quietly, heart pounding. Someone was watching, and I realized, too late, that this story was no longer just about forbidden love. It was about exposure, about consequences, and about a truth that was inching closer to the surface, whether we were ready or not. Suspicion does not arrive loudly. It seeps in through small changes, missed glances, hesitations that linger too long. Words spoken carefully instead of freely. I learned that in the weeks following the conversation, I overheard between my mother and whoever was on the other end of the phone. Someone was paying attention now. And once people start watching, secrets lose their power to stay hidden. I became hyper-aware of everything I did. The way I spoke to Daniel, the distance I kept, the moments I avoided him entirely, and the moments that avoidance itself felt suspicious. Daniel noticed too. We communicated less, but when we did, our conversations were strained, clipped, heavy with things unsaid. What made it worse was Clara's growing excitement. The closer the wedding drew, the more she pulled us both into her orbit. Group tastings, fittings, family dinners, endless planning sessions where Daniel and I were forced into the same spaces. Pretending nothing was wrong. Pretending became exhausting. One evening, Clara insisted we all sit together to finalize guest arrangements. She sat between us on the couch, oblivious to the tension radiating from either side. I can't believe how lucky I am, she said cheerfully. My fiancé and my sister, my two favorite people, getting along so well. Daniel stiffened. I felt my throat tighten. We do? I said carefully. You chose well. She smiled, satisfied. But my mother was watching. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Her eyes lingered on Daniel and me, just long enough to let me know she was no longer looking blindly. Mothers rarely are. The breaking pressure came unexpectedly. A week later, Clara asked me to accompany her to a final dress fitting. Daniel was supposed to be at work. I was relieved until my phone buzzed halfway through the appointment. Daniel, we need to talk. Not here, not now, but soon. My hands shook as I locked the screen. What's wrong? Clara asked, adjusting the gown in the mirror. Nothing, I lied, but everything inside me screamed otherwise. We met that night, against our better judgment. Not at the house, not anywhere familiar. A quiet cafe on the edge of town, nearly empty at that hour. The kind of place where conversations blurred into background noise, and no one looked twice at two people sitting too far apart at a small table. Daniel arrived first. He looked worse than I felt. Dark circles under his eyes, tension etched into his face. This has to stop, he said before I could speak. My heart sank. I know. No, he said, leaning forward slightly. I mean everything. The secrecy. The glances. The almost conversations. It's becoming noticeable. So what are you saying? I asked quietly. He hesitated. That hesitation told me more than words ever could. I think Clara suspects something, he admitted. The world tilted. She hasn't said anything, he continued quickly. But she's been asking questions about you, about us, about why things feel off. I swallowed hard. She trusts us. Yes, he said, pain flickering across his face. And that's what makes this unforgivable. Silence settled between us. What do we do? I asked. Daniel stared at the table. I don't know. That answer terrified me more than any confession could have. The following days were unbearable. Clara became quieter, more observant. She laughed less freely, asked questions that felt innocent, but landed like traps. Did you and Daniel ever spend much time together before we got engaged? You seem distant lately. Did I upset you? Daniel's been stressed. Have you noticed? Every question was a test. Every answer a gamble. I failed one without realizing it. One evening, Clara casually mentioned a detail from Daniel's childhood, something he had never told her, but had once mentioned to me in passing. I responded without thinking, correcting her gently. She looked at me then, not accusing, not angry, curious. That's not how he told me, she said. The room felt suddenly too small. I might be mistaken, I said quickly. It was probably nothing. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Later that night, I locked myself in my room and cried until exhaustion overtook guilt. Daniel and I stopped meeting entirely after that. Not because the feelings had faded, but because fear had replaced desire. Fear sharpens love into something dangerous. Every interaction felt like a potential explosion. My mother's watchfulness intensified. She asked me questions she never used to ask. Are you happy, Eleanor? You've changed lately. Is there something you're not telling us? I denied everything, but denial has an expiration date. The confrontation came from the last person I expected, my father. He called me into his study one afternoon, his tone gentle but firm. The door closed behind me with a finality that made my stomach churn. Sit, he said. I obeyed. I want to ask you something, he continued, and I want the truth. My hands clenched in my lap. Have you noticed anything unusual about Daniel? The question struck like lightning. No, I said too quickly. My father studied me for a long moment. Then he sighed. Your mother is worried, he said. She thinks something is troubling you. Relief washed through me, followed immediately by shame. I'm fine, I insisted. He nodded slowly, unconvinced. If that's true, then I'll say this once. Whatever is happening in this family right now needs honesty. Secrets have a way of destroying more than the truth ever could. I left the study shaken. The walls were closing in. That night, Daniel finally broke the silence. He showed up at my door. I didn't invite him in. I didn't need to. The tension between us filled the hallway. This can't go on, he said quietly. We're hurting her, even without touching, even without speaking. Tears burned my eyes. Then why are you here? Because I needed to see you, he admitted. And because I'm scared of what happens next. So am I. We stood there, separated by inches that felt like miles. I'm marrying her, he said, his voice breaking. I can't walk away now. I nodded, tears spilling over. I know. And you need to promise me something, he added. What? That no matter what happens, you won't tell her. The request sliced through me. You're asking me to lie forever, I whispered. I'm asking you to protect her, he said. In that moment, I understood the cruel truth. There was no ending that didn't destroy someone, and the choice had already been made. I agreed to Daniel's request. I don't know why. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was the desperate hope that silence could still save what little remained of our family. I nodded through tears and whispered, I promise. Even though some part of me already knew that promises made in situations like this never survive the truth. Daniel left that night without another word. And just like that, everything became unbearable. The weeks leading up to the wedding felt like a slow walk toward an execution neither of us could stop. Clara immersed herself in preparations, clinging to lists and schedules, as if control could quiet whatever unease stirred beneath her joy. She laughed when others were around, but when it was just the two of us, she grew quieter. Observant. One night, while we folded linens together in her room, she suddenly asked, Do you think people can love two people at once? The question hit me like a physical blow. I don't know, I said carefully. She watched my face instead of the sheets. Daniel's been distant, not cold. Just elsewhere. I forced myself to keep breathing. Weddings are stressful. She nodded, but her expression didn't soften. You'd tell me if something was wrong, right? Yes, I said, and hated myself for how easily the lie came. The wedding day arrived anyway, bright, beautiful, immaculate. Everything looked perfect, which somehow made it worse. As Clara stood in front of the mirror in her dress, she looked radiant, happy in a way that felt fragile, like glass stretched too thin. She took my hands and smiled. You've always been my anchor, she said softly. No matter what happens, promise you'll always be on my side. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. Outside, guests gathered. Music swelled. The moment arrived, whether we were ready or not. I saw Daniel at the altar before Clara did. He looked composed. But I knew him well enough now to recognize the signs. His clenched jaw, the tension in his shoulders. When his eyes met mine briefly, I looked away. I couldn't bear to see what was reflected there. The ceremony began. Every word felt like a betrayal spoken aloud. The truth revealed itself in the cruelest way possible. Not through confession, not through courage, but through chance. As the officiant spoke, Clara's phone buzzed softly in her bouquet. She frowned, distracted, and glanced down, just briefly. Her smile faltered, her eyes widened. She looked at Daniel, then at me. The room went silent, though no one else seemed to notice yet. Time slowed to a crawl as Clara stepped back, lifting her phone with shaking hands. What is this? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel froze. I knew immediately what she had seen. A message, one that had never been meant for her. Daniel took a step toward her. Clara? Don't, she said sharply. Her eyes burned, moving between us. Just tell me the truth, for once. The world held its breath. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. Daniel's silence was answer enough. Clara laughed then, One short, broken sound. How long? Neither of us spoke. Her gaze landed on me, and something inside her shattered completely. You, she said quietly. My own sister. I never touched him, I blurted out, desperation clawing at me. I swear, I never... She held up a hand. Stop. Tears streamed down her face as realization set in, not just of what had happened, but of what it meant. The ceremony dissolved into chaos. Guests murmured. My parents rushed forward. Questions flew, unanswered. Clara turned away from the altar and walked out without another word. The wedding was over. So was everything else. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Clara refused to speak to either of us. She packed a bag and left that same night, staying with a friend whose name she would not share. My parents demanded explanations. Daniel ended the engagement, offering apologies that rang hollow even to himself. And me? I lost my sister. My parents looked at me differently now, hurt and disbelief etched into their faces. Trust evaporated. Silence filled every corner of the house. Daniel called once. I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. Months passed. Life rearranged itself around the damage, but nothing ever truly healed. Clara moved away. My parents stopped asking about her. Her absence became a quiet wound we all pretended not to see. One afternoon, I received a letter. No return address. I knew who it was from before I opened it. I loved you, Clara wrote. I trusted you more than anyone. That's what hurts the most. I don't know if I'll ever forgive you, but I needed you to know that I survived this. I hope you learn to live with what you chose. I cried until the words blurred. Years later, I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I had spoken sooner. If honesty, painful as it was, might have spared us all something worse. But some questions don't come with answers, only consequences. I never saw Daniel again. I never stopped loving my sister. And I learned, too late, that forbidden love doesn't just destroy relationships. It destroys the parts of you that believed love alone was enough. If you enjoy intense emotional storytelling, forbidden romance, and dramatic stories, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more stories like this. Would you choose love or family? Kindly drop in the comment section.